Where edhe selfish love singli majri të cilin keni edhe website-in ton radiourbanfm.com edhe të cilin kemi bërë share edhe në Facebook faqen në të cilin e kemi vendosur paralajmërimin për intervistën e ditës dhe me neve është ish diplomatja, studiusja dhe historiane britanike që tash e 3-4 vite është e kyçur në një projekt të ri por që e nje Kosovën bagi moti. Joanna, Hansom. Joanna, thank you very much for taking the trouble and coming here. First of all, because since you are for the first time in our show, in Radio Urban FM and in Rrokum TV, can you tell us a bit more about your career and Kosovo? How long you know Kosovo and how you've been involved in Kosovo?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here. Well, I've been coming to Kosovo since 1996, and that is because for about 25 years I worked for the British Foreign Office as an analyst, as an advisor, not as a policy maker, but as an analyst. So I first came in 1996 to get to know the country.
What is happening here? It was a difficult story to deconstruct Kosovo and all that problems.
Well, I've seen many changes, as you can probably imagine, and I've sort of, as we might say, done both sides. I've seen both sides. Of course, when I first came, it was before the conflict, so we had a very different situation with enormous concerns, and also there were attempts to try and find a political solution to Kosovo's problems, which unfortunately didn't happen. So we had the conflict, and then I started coming back again. I think it was, I can't remember now, it's probably in 2006, although all the time I was working on Kosovo, and I'm still coming back.
Do me thonë, zonja është ka ardhur në Kosovë si analiste e Ministrisë së Punëve të Jashtme të Britanisë Madhe, qeverisë britanike, për të shiquar se çfarë ndodh këtu dhe po ashtu përpos atë Kosovën e para luftës, themi kështu, që nga viti 2005-2006 vjen në Kosovë. Now you are involved in a multi-perspectiva ose newperspectiva.com ose which is about trying to see history of Kosovo in different perspectives or to use different sources of information about different facts or events that happened in the past. Tell us more about what is this about?
New Perspective, which is the NGO I head up, we have, as you said, set up this website called Multi-Perspectiva, which is an attempt to open up thinking on the multi-perspective approach to the understanding and teaching of history. And we have been doing a project over the last year, first of all bringing teachers together from both communities to open up their thinking on the methodology, and we had some absolutely fascinating and very interesting meetings. We also invited a Polish professor to come to talk to people, Professor Konkolewski, who was a member of the Polish-German History Textbook Commission. So he was able to share all their incredible experiences with us, which was very helpful. And then finally we wanted to set up this website to show the three perspectives, so the Kosovo perspective from your textbooks, the Serbian perspective from their textbooks, and then the others, which are the perspectives of other historians. And so you have the three perspectives and then an overarching paragraph, which is the first attempt to try and make a kind of multi-perspective, neutral summary of that particular event in history. It is not meant to be something finite. It's not meant to be the history of Kosovo, but it's there for students and teachers to look at and to consult when they want to think wider and when they want to see what is not in their particular textbooks and just generally learn about Kosovo's history.
Do me thonë, kjo ka filluar me takimin e profesorëve dhe historianëve nga të dyja komunitetet serbe dhe shqiptare dhe kanë pasur disa takime shumë interesante dhe ka të bëjë me shiqimin e ngjarjeve të ndryshme historike nga tri perspektiva, jo se si mësohet në librat historisë Kosovës, të Serbisë, por edhe të tjerat. Dhe, si thot zonja Hanson, nuk ka qëllim këtu që të jetë fjala e fundit, versioni final i historisë, por vetëm të jetë edhe një tekst apo edhe një tjetër burim për të ndihmuar studentët që e historisë që cilët studiojnë ngjarje të ndryshme. You said that you had very interesting meetings between professors and historians of both communities, and when you say interesting, I think, or generally thinking that you mean that very confronting opinions about different events and happenings that happened during the past in history, when it comes especially to the events that has to do with Albanians and Serbs, because, for example, what is taught in our school books, somebody's called the Freedom Fire, they call us terrorists. So how to bring down that gap?
Yeah, absolutely. We had very interesting discussions. We didn't have any big rows.
Okay.
And I think what initially both sides found really interesting was, for the first time, they had examples how the other one's textbooks saw events. Many of them had never seen that before, so that was quite illuminating. There was a lot of defensiveness, yes, that's what I'd call it. And I think that is a kind of natural reaction for an historian who's always had to teach rather from the single perspective. In fact, we discussed quite at length as really whether it was the duty of historians to defend their national history.
Yeah, and it's especially this region, and I have to come from my profession, from journalism, Kosovo's journalism during the 90s, and I think we are not escaping from that. It's relies on the so-called engagement journalism, like the first you have to make the resistance and then do the duty of journalist. Something that it's not right, I think, because journalists have to be journalists and to report things how they are. But this mindset of the 90s that when it comes to resistance, to national interest, we have to put our profession seconds, prevailed in journalism, unfortunately, and I think in historians too.
Yes, I think so. Perhaps I should say I used to work for the BBC, so I understand this, because, of course, when you join the BBC, you have all your opinions taken away from you.
Yeah,
you're not allowed.
It's a public.
You're not allowed to have an opinion, and it's like a sort of vicious circle, because the journalists tend to say what the textbooks tend to say, and then the historians argue with the journalists. But I think what's really worrying about the textbooks is how the facts change in the textbooks, and then because they're facts for politics, they're not such important facts for historians and learning history. I mean, I'm thinking here about, especially looking at the recent conflict, the way the numbers of deaths, the numbers of fatalities are exaggerated. But this doesn't only happen in Kosovo. It's not something peculiar to Kosovo, and it's something that happens in many transition states. So I hope this will be put right.
Yeah, but I mean, probably, and I wanted to ask you, we are used here that history is another tool for politicians. I mean, whole arguments, for example, of Serbia to hold Kosovo is based on the Battle of Kosovo, old Serbia, medieval Serbia. Then Albanians' argument is that they are here forever, that Slavs came here. So is it okay that history be used by politics, or history should be history?
History should be history. I think the only time when history can perhaps be used by politics and politicians is when they specifically commission historians to write for them, to explain things, which I myself have done for politicians, and maybe sometimes when it's a national anniversary or something. But the politicians, by politicizing history, are disenfranchising their citizens. I think this is what is really important, and this is why I wanted to have this website. It was one of the main reasons. We are disabling the young people of this country if we teach them bad history. First of all, we're teaching them sometimes mistruths, although you can say there is no truth in history. But secondly, we're not developing their critical thinking. We're not developing them into democratic and civic citizens, which is needed more than ever today.
Det var en problem my mother started me historinë e Kiesë, themi kështu, jo vetëm që është duke I mësuar pa vërteta, por është ndikon negativisht te studentët, nxënësit, sepse duke mësuar historinë nga vetëm një burim apo nga një perspektivë ja eliminon critical thinking, mendimin kritik dhe ngritjen e tyre intelektuale për të qenë pjesë e barabartë në shoqëri perëndimore civile. Somebody said that the winners always write history. Is that true?
Everybody says that, and it is true to a very large extent, but I think that is changing now. Because people have come to learn that it doesn't really serve history or the students. And in particular in the Balkans, there's been a lot of pressure to change the way history is taught since the end of communism, since the end of all the conflicts. The Council of Europe has taken a particularly strong message in this, and you probably know that the Council of Europe Commissioner for Human Rights, Niels Muzinix, I think that's how you pronounce it, was here in February, and he himself said that the textbooks, Kosovo textbooks, contained elements of nationalism and prejudice. You need intercultural understanding here. And he specifically called on the Kosovo government to review teaching methods and methodology. So everybody's saying this. But again, it's not only peculiar in the Balkans. If you look at the transition countries in Central Europe who went through the Marxist histories, they've also had to rewrite a lot of their textbooks, and there still remain enormous problems with them. And even in the country I come from, the way the history of the British Empire and British colonies is taught has had to be changed. And the whole approach is this multi-perspective approach, to see it from different individuals' point of view. Because obviously an Indian sees what happened during the British rule in India quite differently from the way a British gentleman might see it. And that is changing enormously, and there are a lot of young diverse citizens in the UK who are also doing this. They have their websites, but nobody's got one like ours.
It is, do me thonë, Joanna më thotë që edhe Komisioneri Evropian për Drejtat e Njeriut që ka qëndruar në shkurt këtu ka thënë se dhe ka drejtuar qeverisë Kosovës me kërkesë që të rishikojë librat e historisë, sepse janë të mbushura me terma nacionaliste dhe ksenofobe dhe duhet të jenë me më shumë perspektiva mbi ngjarjet ndryshme, por kjo nuk është unike vetëm për Kosovën. Këtë problem e kanë edhe vendet në tranzicion të Evropës lindore, kur kanë dalë nga komunizmi, por edhe vetë në Britani të Madhe, sepse për shembull një historian indian apo një indian mund ta shënë ndryshe periudhën e perandorisë britanike dhe Indis, një gentleman anglez mund ta shënë ndryshe, por këto gjëra po ndryshojnë në Britani të Madhe. Tashmë ka shumë akademik të rinj të cilët e dinë rëndësinë që të shqohet nga të gjitha këto ngjarje të rishikohen nga perspektiva të shumta. Joanna, because I have a lot of history is my favorite topic, so I had a lot of things to talk, and I'm trying to cover everything. It is said that we thought, and it's widely acknowledged, that unfortunately children in Kosovo and in Serbia are still reading history where there's no space for reconciliation, for the truth, for tolerance, as to say, and the new generations of nationalists, let's say, generally are being educated from the systems. Is there any chance that this can change without a change in the political will of the leadership?
What you're saying is absolutely true again, and this is one of the main reasons too why we set up this site, because, as you say, there are two parallel schooling systems here which have totally different curricula and different textbooks, and they're actually educating the children I'm not saying intentionally on the part of the teachers, but actually to push those two communities further apart.
Yeah.
And if you look at the website, you'll see what the Kosovo children are told about, let's say, the Second World War, and then what the Serbian children are told. Mm-hmm. And as we say in English, ne'er the twain shall meet. They won't come together at all. I'm an optimist, and I believe there is room for change, and change will happen. It won't happen fast, but then these things are probably better happening gradually. What also encourages me to say that is, of course, children have the social media now, students have the social media, and in this country most people understand English very well, so they can always look on websites, on other portals, to see what the truth is about, well, not what the truth, but what other presentations, other facts are. In fact, some of the teachers have said to me at the meetings, it is now more difficult for them because kids come to school with other information when they've picked up the social media.
And they challenge the stereotypical way of...
I think there is a desire from the top to change as well. I know the Ministry of Education here is doing some quite important work on the methodology of the multi-perspective history training, and there is more and more talk about looking at the textbooks. There'll be pressure from the external institutions. I mean, most of this comes from external pressure anyhow. Mm-hmm. But one of the members of your, may I say, last government, or the one that's still acting, but I think is about to stop acting now, he himself said to me, we have to do this if we want to come into Europe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, do të thonë, është problematike mënyra se për momentin, pra nxënësit e dy komuniteteve që janë Kosovë, Serb dhe Shqiptar e mësojnë historinë, sepse ata mënyra se si po qënë gjeneratat e reja ma larg njëri tjetrit, por për shembull nga Ministria e Arsimit dhe nga ministrat e qeverisë në detyrë që tash po e kryjnë mandatin, ka deklaruar se domethënë duhet që të futet kjo metodologji e studimit, domethënë të shiqohen ngjarjet nga perspektiva të ndryshme, sepse vetëm në këtë mënyrë Kosova mund të hyjë në Evropë. Pra ekziston një vullnet politik nga ana e qeverisë së Kosovës për të avancuar në këtë çështje. And what is the response from the Serbian side, let's say Serbian professors of Kosovo? And I don't know if there were Serbian professors from Serbia involved, but what is their thinking about all this? Like when they, as you said, read for the first time what Albanians say about different events that they talk and read differently. Is there a will from the local Serbs to have this change?
We didn't have anybody involved from Serbia
right.
in the project, but yes, we dealt with local Kosovo Serb communities and history teachers from them. And I can say to you that both sides were as dissatisfied as the other with the way in which the history is presented to them to teach. There is a desire for change. And even at one meeting, one of the Kosovo Serb teachers said, could we arrange a round table with Kosovo Albanian teachers? As I said, they had never seen most of them the textbooks before. And what's fascinating for me is some of those teachers were incredible individuals, and you can see that they were somewhat frustrated and angry and doing their best. And we know from research that teachers do try to slightly modify what they teach. Sometimes it's very difficult because teachers on both sides have had some really difficult experiences in the past. And one of the teachers said to me, I've lost my cousin, I don't know to this day, and then I have to teach these issues. But students will also pressurize. I think this is really important to remember. The students will start pressurizing because they're bored in the lessons. They're bored and they're seeing so much else now. So I hope that there'll be sort of what we say bottom up pressure.
Pressure, ok. Po edhe në tek komuniteti sërb nuk ka pas sërbis, por vetëm domethënë të Kosovës, profesorët të historisë në shqiptar dhe sërb, por edhe në tek komuniteti profesorëve të shkollave në gjuhën sërbe ekziston një entuziazëm dhe një gatishmëri që të vazhdohet me bashkëpunimin, të shqohet nga perspektiva të ndryshme dhe ka pasur propozime domethënë që të ketë takime më të shumta, seminare apo konferenca më të mëdha, sepse për herë të parë domethënë ka ndodhur që të takohen mes vetë dhe të lexojnë gjëra të tjera, por mbi të gjitha edhe studentët dhe nxënësit janë duke bërë presion tek profesorët që të japën më shumë perspektiva, më shumë burime për ngjarje të caktuara. What is the yes?
Perhaps I could just say one more thing. The third reason why we set up this website was because on the main website, so many of the people who wrote on it complained about how they taught history and how it had disabled them and really how it affects their attempts for integration. And these were writers from either side. And we've always said we'll listen to the voices. So these are people who are making pressure as well.
Po, arsyeja tjetër është që ka pasur e tretë, domethënë për formimin e website-it është se ka pasur shumë reagime se mënyra si po mësohet historia deri tash është po i çon komunitetet larg njëri me tjetrin. What are the plans for the future now? You opened the website, which is still kind of as only the topics put, and why not we can show it one more in the main ekran. Kjo është pra website në të cilën përmban disa prej ngjarjeve me të cilat prekën edhe nxitën studiusit apo profesorët që të flasin për shembull gjendja shqiptare në Kosovë pas lutjes së dytë botërore, demonstrata 68, Konstituta 74, 81 etj. Ky është website. What are the plans for the future?
Well, first of all, can I quickly say this website is bilingual, or trilingual, because it's in Albanian, Serbian and English, and that is extremely important.
Po, është domethënë në tri gjuhë që mundi me pa edhe një herë, domethënë është në gjuhën shqipe, në gjuhën serbe dhe në gjuhën angleze, që do të thotë se ka për qëllim që të nxit edhe është për të gjithë qytetarët e Kosovës. Yes, I show the versions of languages.
We should be at the moment we have 16 sections. We shall be adding to these. The next two we have to do are connected to the 1999, 1998, 99 conflict. We shall then, over the next few months, be putting in 2 or 3 more. I specifically too want to look at subjects which are not subjects of conflict between the communities, but conflict examples from the past when the communities have worked and lived and done incredible things together, as we know they have. We will listen to what people want. I'm very, very anxious that people send their comments, ask what they might like, because it's what the people say which is more important. But we have some ideas for developing it further, not only from the sort of historical content point of view, but also from the methodology. And I would quite like, because there's such a difficult problem here for students to look at sources for their history, to do quite simply more of a kind of graphic page with sources. But as you know, it's not difficult when you're dealing with 3 languages, because so many of these sources, especially documents, are only in 1 language. But we'll think.
Yeah. Okay, do me thonë për momentin janë vetëm disa këto themi kështu epokat apo ngjarje të cilat janë evoluar dhe natyrisht që do të futen edhe disa tema tjera dhe Joanna thret të gjithë ju që të shiqoni website-in, të shiqoni se si raportohet për një ngjarje në të 3 burime, do me thonë Serbia në tekstet shkollore, Kosova dhe të tjerët, për shembull për dyndjen e slavëve apo serbëve në Ballkan dhe në Kosovë apo për ngjarje tjera, dhe t'i quajnë komentet e tyre sepse është shumë e rëndësishme, domethënë çka qytetarët ndëgjojnë. Okay, Joanna, if you have something to add for the end, and I forgot to answer to question, please do. On the other side, I wish you a very good job, and see you when you come to the next stage of the project.
Well, thank you. I have nothing to add. Thank you very much for having me, and I hope everybody reads it and enjoys us, and tell us what you think. Thank you very much.
Okay, faleminderit shumë. Do të thonë Joanna i fton të gjithëve që ta shiqoni, ta lexoni dhe të çoni mendimin e juaj. Intervistën do ta publikojmë gjatë ditës së nesërme në Facebook faqen tonë Radio Urban FM. LCD Sound System Tonight edhe The Killers Run for Cover. Janë dy këngë të radhës, pastaj kthehemi në pjesën e fundit të emisionit.